Ilia Malinin is meant to be an anomaly in the system. On paper, he isn't just the frontrunner for Olympic gold in Milan. He represents certainty. He's the quad master, the sole person in history to execute the quad axel, a competitor who has essentially conquered the video game of figure skating by completing jumps that were mathematically deemed impossible just 5 years ago. He came to Italy unbeaten over the past 2 seasons, having recently claimed his fourth straight United States championship by an overwhelming margin. However, as Ilia Malinin stepped onto the ice for practice at the Milano Ice Skating Arena on February 4, 2026, the sense of invincibility began to fracture. For the first time in his career, the man who devours gravity for breakfast confessed he was scared. "I'll experience rough days where I contemplate the pressure and it genuinely shuts me down," he shared at a crowded press conference. "It places me in not the greatest mindset. It's a lot to manage when the entire world is anticipating you to accomplish something miraculous. The world doesn't simply want Ilia to triumph, they want him to shatter physics, they want the historic 6-quad routine, they want the world record score of 335.3, they want the god." However, behind the scenes, Ilia Malinin is confronting a very human reality. He's breaking in new skates, a process that's notoriously demanding and unpredictable during an Olympic week. He's sporting a pair of bright yellow skate laces given to him by NHL legend Alex Ovechkin, a symbol of the greatness he's expected to embody. What occurs to a god when he discovers he still has to bleed like everyone else? In Milan, the game isn't just about rotation anymore, it's about survival. To comprehend why the pressure is so intense, you have to understand the mathematics of what Ilia Malinin actually does. Let's discuss the quad axel. In a standard quad, you rotate 4 times in the air. In an axel, you take off forward, which means you must complete an extra half rotation. That's 260 degrees of spin in less than 0.8 seconds. For decades, sports scientists claimed the human frame couldn't withstand the torque. They claimed the ankles would snap. They claimed the brain couldn't process the rotation speed. And for Ilia, it tops out at over 6 rotations per second. When Ilia Malinin lands a quad axel, his body absorbs nearly 800 pounds of force. That's the equivalent of a small car being dropped on his lead leg from a height of 3 feet. And he doesn't just do it once. He does it while moving 20 mph on a steel blade that's only form thick. However, Ilia's rebellion against physics doesn't stop with the axle. He spent the 2026 season incorporating elements that the International Skating Union (ISU) barely knows how to score. One of them is the raspberry twist, an acrobatic horizontal spin named after the Russian word Malina. The backflip is a move that was banned for decades as too dangerous until Ilia helped force a rule change in 2024. He didn't just move the bar, he threw the bar away. He's playing a different sport than everyone else. This technical dominance created a mathematical trap. Because Ilia can land jumps no one else can, his base value is so high that he can fall twice and still outscore a perfect rival. However, in Milan, winning isn't the goal is the legacy. And for the first time, Ilia is realizing that being the favorite means you have everything to lose and nothing left to prove. Ilia Malinin wasn't just coached for this moment, he was engineered for it. His parents Tatyana Malinina and Roman Skornikov weren't just skaters, they were Olympians for Uzbekistan. He was raised in the language of the blade in a Virginia rink, dissecting the mechanics of rotation with 2 people who knew exactly what the Olympic pressure felt like. His mother was a Grand Prix final champion and his father was a consistent technical titan. However, as he arrived in Milan, he added a new layer to his warrior identity. He's wearing bright yellow laces, a personal gift from Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin. It's a DC-Virginia connection that represents a passing of the torch. Ovechkin, the man who defied age to chase Gretzky's goal record, saw something in Ilia, a shared killer instinct. Malin's agent Ari Zakarian connected the 2 titans, and now those yellow laces are a constant visual reminder of the greatness Ilia is expected to deliver. However, that bloodline and those connections come with a heavy tax. There's a specific kind of weight that comes with being a second-generation Olympian. It's not just your dream on the line, it's the continuation of a family legacy. On February 4th, Ilia admitted that following in his parents' footsteps is an honor, but you can see the toll. He's 19 years old. He's carrying the expectations of a family, a hockey legend, and a sport that's desperate for its first Biles-level superstar. He spent his life being the quad god his parents built. However, in Milan, he's trying to find out who Ilia is. He's reaching out to artists, contacting musicians directly to clear rights, and trying to prove that he's a performer, not just a technical anomaly. In 2026, Ilia Malinin is attempting the most dangerous jump of his career. And it's not an axel, it's an artistic reinvention. He knows the critics say he's all jumps and no soul. He knows his component scores are lower than Yuma Kagiyama's. So for the Milano Cortina Games, he has completely reworked his identity. His short program, The Lost Crown, is a high-octane tribute to the Prince of Persia video game. It's a choice that reflects his own personality. A gamer, a Lego builder, a kid of the digital age. He worked with legendary choreographer Shilin Bourne to turn the ice into a battleground, lip-syncing to the music and smiling through jumps that should be impossible. However, it's his free skate program that has the skating world talking. For the first time in Olympic history, a skater's using their own spoken voice as part of the soundtrack. Ilia spent hours in a recording studio with Shilin and her husband, director Bodin Turak, perfecting the phrasing. He wanted to tell the story of the internal noise, the pressure, the pain, and the warrior spirit required to fight through it. Malinin said he was the first person to use his own voice in a program. He wanted it to be unique. He wanted the audience to hear him, not just see him. However, this is a massive tactical gamble. In the 100-year history of the sport, judges have traditionally rewarded classical silent grace. By adding spoken word and video game beats, Ilia is asking the judges to enter his world. If they don't buy the story, the most difficult quads in the world might not be enough to save his score. He's trading points for authenticity. And in Milan, that's the highest stakes bet you can make, as if the quad axle wasn't enough. Ilia Malinin decided to set the Olympic Village on fire this week with 3 words: maybe, maybe not. During his Tuesday press conference in Milan, reporters asked the question everyone has been whispering: is the quintuple jump coming? A 5-revolution jump, 800 degrees of spin, a move that would effectively end the quad era and begin something entirely new. Malinin has been teasing the quint salto in practice for months. He has the rotation speed. He has the height. And on February 3rd, he dropped the bombshell. Physically, I am ready, and he said, if the time is right, you might see it. This is the Malinin glitch at its most extreme. He's playing psychological warfare with the rest of the field. By even mentioning a quintuple, he forces his rivals to rethink their entire strategy. How do you compete with a man who's already bored with the impossible? However, the risk is catastrophic. A quintuple requires a level of perfection that leaves zero margin for error. 1 millimeter off in the takeoff and the impact force could end a career. In Milan, the ice is reportedly hard and fast. It's great for power but punishing for a fall. Is he actually going to do it, or is he just keeping everyone on their toes, as he put it with a grin? Either way, he has shifted the focus from will he win to what will he invent next. He has turned the Olympic final into his own personal laboratory. The men's short program begins in less than 48 hours. The atmosphere at the Milano ice skating arena is electric, but for Team USA the mood is one of calculated caution. Ilia's rivals are circling. Yuma Kageyama, the Japanese master of the surgical landing, is betting that the quad god will crack under the weight of his own ambition. Kageyama doesn't have the axle, but he has the consistency. Ilia's admission of bad days on February 4th changed the math. When the favorite admits they're shutting down from the pressure, they're no longer the predator, they're the prey. He has admitted that going your own way can feel lonely. He has separated himself so far from the rest of the field technically that he has no one to pace himself against. He's in a race against his own potential, and the finish line keeps moving. He's 21, he's the world record holder, he's the quad god. However, as he stares at the Olympic rings in Milan, he's not thinking about the 260 degrees of rotation. He's thinking about the landing. Success in 2026 for Ilia Malinin is not just about the gold medal. It's about surviving the miracle. We've seen what happens to child prodigies in this sport. We've seen the burnout and the ghost that Alice Aliu had to escape. Ilia Malinin has avoided the collapse so far by being smarter than his own talent. He swaps his skates for Lego bricks at night, building intricate cars while his cats observe from a plush perch. He juggles a soccer ball to stay warm. He protects the kid inside the machine. However, Milan is the ultimate test. He has spent years proving he could fly. He has spent years proving that the laws of physics are just suggestions. However, on this February afternoon in Italy, he's doing something much harder. He's learning how to land. He's learning that it's okay to be imperfect. He's learning that the warrior spirit isn't about landing 7 quads. It's about getting back up when the pressure tells you to stay down. Ilia Malinin doesn't need a gold medal to be the greatest jumper in history. He already is. However, in Milan, he might just prove that he's the greatest skater. Because when the quad god finally accepts his own humanity, that's when he becomes truly untouchable. The Olympics aren't happening to Ilia Malinin. Ilia Malinin is happening to them. And for the first time, he's ready to let us see the man behind the machine.